I'd be pretty sad if after all of these amazing conversations over the span of a couple of years, I didn't come to define my faith. And luckily, I did. My husband was out in Seattle, and I was flying with my two sons to meet him. And the war in Iraq had started. There were bombs flying all over the TV sets in the lounges of JFK Airport. We got to our airport. I don't like to fly. That's no surprise. I got myself on the airplane. There was a lot of turbulence. Very happy about that. And they started to fly at a lower altitude, they announced, because of the turbulence. So I looked out the window. We were flying to this unbelievable sunset. We were flying west at sunset, and it was just spectacular and orange and, raspberry and bright, shining lemon yellow skies ahead of us, and purple, and it was just amazing. And a little ways into the flight, I looked down at the ground. You could see everything. I'd never flown that low before. And I saw these really flat, huge silver bodies of water. I looked in the airline magazine and realized I was flying over the Great Lakes at sunset. I'd never seen anything like it. I could see these little waves lapping against the shore, and the waters were reflecting the sunset, and it was just so gorgeous. I started thinking about all the conversations that I'd had with Rania and Suzanne and my yearning for something to ground myself. And here I was up in the sky looking down at this beauty. I started to cry, and my 16-year-old son sitting next to him, I don't know how old he was then, but whatever, my teenage son turned to me and said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "It's just so beautiful." And because he's an adolescent male, he went back to his ESPN magazine and didn't push me any further. He was kind enough to ask me why I was crying. And luckily I had Rania and Suzanne to come home to. And we went to the next Faith Club meeting, I described this feeling I'd had up in the airplane. I said, "So I've decided to surrender to a higher power." And I thought that would be the end of it. They said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, like you guys. I'm going to surrender to a higher power. I was up there, I felt something, and, I'm done. And no, they kept pressing me. And I said that Suzanne was a midwife to my faith because she kept pulling it out of me. And both of them were really probing me. And they said, "What exactly did you feel up there? What did you feel? What did you feel?" And finally I said, "I guess I felt humbled." And Ronnie said, "Well, that's a very Islamic notion, because Islam means to submit. And once you have submitted and acknowledge your tiny place in the vastness of the universe, you're able to see things, hear things, and experience things on the ground in a very different way, in a very humble, important way." And paradoxically, I found that it is true that when I shrank myself down, my faith and my spirit became larger. I drank the Alice in Wonderland potion, and I got really, really little. And I really like my perspective down on the ground. I'm just a little speck, as I say to somebody, and I like that little speck in the universe concept. There's a chapter in the book where I walked into Sal's Pizzeria in Mamaroneck, New York. I always say that because somebody in the crowd has always been there. But one day I just bought 2 books about religion across the street, and me, the person, I used to call it even in the Faith Club the G word. And I walked in and I thought, I think I'm born again. And I said I felt the warmth escaping from the oven. I smelled the rich red tomato sauce. The surly guys behind the counter were beaming at me, and everything just felt different. I think I have what everybody else I've been so impressed with has. I think I have inner peace. And I went back to my minivan. We were all writing journals, and I jotted down in the dark in this pencil my epiphany. And I came back in and I announced to Ronnie and Suzanne that I was born again. And it doesn't, believe me, it comes and goes, and it waxes and wanes, as Suzanne says. Catch me on a bad day, and I'm, a puddle again. But the other wonderful thing that I discovered was that all my life I'd known about this one Hebrew prayer, but when we were talking about prayer, and Ronnie described how she prayed and she saw God everywhere from this Muslim perspective, I began to pray constantly on the street about whatever, and I found the first Jewish prayer of the day's translation, which I'd never known before. So I start every day now with this prayer. I wake up and I say, "Thank you, God, for returning my soul to my body. We may ever trust in you." And I imagine people all over the world waking up, happy that their souls are still in their body and ready for a new day. The other thing that I now have a definition of God that I stole from Martin Buber. I know who to steal from. And I dedicated the book to my 2 sons. And Martin Buber said that when 2 people relate to each other authentically and humanly, God is electricity that surges between them. So when the 3 of us are together, the current is still strong and sparks still fly.